All right. Thanking God for the trustworthy people he has placed in our lives. Let's call Acts chapter 27, Julius, the trip to Rome. As verses 1 through 8 show Paul on his way to Rome, put in the care of a centurion by the name of Julius, who was kind to Paul as he escorts or oversees his trip to Rome. But it's going to be by ship and it is not going to be easy. But in those first 8 verses, he is going to give Paul some liberty with his friends before they begin their trip port to port with difficulty on the seas on the way to Italy. Verses 9 through 12 will go on to say that they will continue taking a while on their way with increased difficulty as Paul is eventually going to warn of even worse trouble on the seas ahead. Julius, even though he is favorable to Paul, is going to, however, listen to the pilot of the ship and the owner of the ship, not necessarily to be dismissive of Paul, but because conditions for porting and staying there are unfavorable. And for those reasons, they're going to decide to press on. But in verses 13 through 20, we're going to see that the trouble is only going to increase on the seas, driving the sailors and those on board to prayer and despair as they then begin to toss the cargo overboard. Verses 21 through 26 show Paul standing up to kind of give him an I told you so, but it's an introduction to a word of encouragement as he is going to encourage them and prophesy that the ship will indeed be lost, but everyone on board will be saved. And this might not help his case with them, but he's going to say, because a messenger from the Lord, otherwise known as an angel, has told him that he is going to have to make it to Rome to witness to some things there. And he believes that God is going to grant him the lives of everyone on the ship as well. And even as odd as it might sound, under desperate circumstances, it's going to seem that at least a few of them believe him for the moment, because in verses 27 through 38, they are going to persevere, but eventually some are going to try to flee the ship. But Paul is going to warn that they are going to need to stay in order to survive. They are going to listen to Paul, all remain on the ship, but they're going to still be in enough despair that Paul is going to have to remind them to eat, because they have been 14 days without food. And as he leads by example, taking some food, they are going to follow along, eat. Apparently they're going to be at least a little comforted as they continue to get rid of cargo or supplies overboard. Some of what they're going to get rid of is actually their wheat. And in verses 39 through 44, they are going to continue on to discover that Paul was right. The ship is eventually going to run aground and be wrecked, but they are going to be able to make it. All on board are going to make it ashore, which seems like that should be good news. But for the fact that the soldiers who are escorting them to Rome, or whatever prisoners they have to their final destination, are going to be worried about what will happen to them if the prisoners are allowed to escape. And so they are going to get it in their minds that they need to kill the prisoners. But Julius, the centurion, is going to step up, wanting to save Paul, understanding all of the ways in which his counsel has helped him reach this far, understanding that there was no guarantee they would have survived without his counsel and advice. And so, as we mentioned at the beginning, in life, thank you, God, for everyone you have put in our lives who prove themselves trustworthy, understanding that gratitude is not a guarantee in life. Paul has helped these people live only so that they could turn on him under pressure and try to kill them to save their own lives they would have lost if Paul hadn't interceded for them in the first place. And it would be easy to criticize them if we weren't all tempted under pressure to do some very shameful and embarrassing things to save ourselves. And so for that reason, as we sometimes say, my prayer for you is my prayer for me. God willing, can you help develop our character so that we can become the kind of people who are genuinely trustworthy under pressure, as we likewise, again, thank you for everyone you put in our lives who is trustworthy under pressure.